The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of my cramped Brooklyn walk-up like it was trying to drown out the city's endless hum. I was sprawled on the sagging couch, nursing a third whiskey neat, when the doorbell buzzed, a sharp, insistent stab that cut through the storm like a knife. Elijah, my best friend since our fumbling days at NYU, stood there soaked to the bone, his dark curls plastered to his forehead, eyes wild with that familiar mix of desperation and defiance. "Nate, open the damn door before I kick it in," he growled, shoving past me without waiting for an invitation. Elijah collapsed onto the couch, water pooling around his boots, and fixed me with a stare that could curdle milk. "It's over," he said, voice cracking like thunder outside. He found out. About us. About everything. My heart slammed against my ribs. Us? There was no us. Not really. Not beyond the stolen nights and the lies we told ourselves in the dark. But as he leaned in, his breath hot against my neck, whispering, "Touch me, Nate. Make it stop hurting," I knew the storm raging outside was nothing compared to the one about to tear us both apart. I'd met Elijah 3 years ago at a dive bar in the East Village, the kind where the jukebox plays Springsteen on loop and the bartenders don't ask questions. He was 22 then, fresh-faced with a laugh that lit up the room like fireworks over the Hudson. I was 28, already jaded from too many bad gigs as a freelance photographer, chasing shadows in a city that chewed up dreamers and spat out husks. He slid onto the stool next to me that night, ordered a gin and tonic with a wink, and said, "You look like you could use a story." By closing time, we'd shared 3 rounds and a kiss in the alley out back. Clumsy, urgent, tasting of lime and regret. From there, it snowballed. Late-night texts turning into dawn patrols through Central Park, his hand brushing mine under the table at crowded diners in Williamsburg. Elijah was a theater kid, all fire and flair, auditioning for off-Broadway roles while slinging coffee at a spot in Soho. I shot weddings and corporate headshots to pay the rent, but with him, I felt alive, snapping candids of him rehearsing monologues in my studio, his body moving like poetry under the harsh fluorescent lights. We never labeled it. "Friends with benefits," he'd joke, but his eyes always lingered too long, searching for something I wasn't sure I could give. The first crack appeared 6 months in, when he landed a callback for a queer indie play downtown. We celebrated at my place with takeout Thai and a bottle of cheap Merlot. He was buzzing, pacing the living room in nothing but boxers, reciting lines from the script, a raw monologue about forbidden love in the shadows of the Stonewall riots. "Feel this," he said suddenly, grabbing my hands and pressing them to his chest. His heart raced under my palms, a frantic drumbeat. I pulled him down onto the rug, our bodies tangling in that effortless way that felt like coming home. But as we lay there afterward, sweat-slicked and spent, he propped himself on an elbow and traced the scar on my collarbone, a jagged reminder from a bar fight back in college, when some frat boy called me a slur and I swung first. "What's the worst thing you've ever done for love?" he asked, voice soft as the city lights filtering through the blinds. I hesitated, the whiskey from earlier loosening my tongue. "Lied to someone who mattered," I admitted. "Told them I was straight, just to keep the peace with my folks." His face darkened, but he didn't press. Instead, he kissed the scar and murmured, "We're all liars in this town." That night marked the shift. Our hookups grew deeper, laced with confessions whispered in the dark. He told me about his conservative family in Ohio, The ones who'd disowned his older brother for coming out. How he'd fled to New York vowing never to look back. I shared my own ghosts, divorced parents in Jersey, a string of exes who'd bailed when things got real. We built a fragile world together. Sunday mornings at the farmer's market in Union Square, haggling over heirloom tomatoes. Rainy afternoons holed up in my darkroom, developing prints of him that captured the vulnerability he hid from the world. Yet the lies festered. Elijah started pulling away after rehearsals, claiming exhaustion, but I'd catch the scent of someone else's cologne on his jacket. Musky, expensive, not like the patchouli he favored. "Who's the guy?" I'd ask lightly, over beers at our usual spot. He'd laugh it off, slinging an arm around my shoulders. "Just a castmate, Nate." Jealous much, but his eyes would dart away, and I'd swallow the doubt like bad medicine. The storm that night he showed up soaked was Hurricane Ida's ugly cousin, a nor'easter that flooded the subways and turned streets into rivers. Elijah shivered as I handed him a towel, stripping off his wet shirt without ceremony. His body was leaner than I remembered, ribs shadowing under skin marked by fresh bruises, fading purple blooms on his hips, like fingerprints from rough hands. "What the hell happened?" I demanded, reaching out. He flinched, then grabbed my wrist, pulling me close. "It's nothing. Just a bad night." We ended up on the couch, him straddling my lap as I worked the knots from his shoulders, old habit from when he'd complain about stage fright. "It's just a massage," he said, echoing words I'd used 100 times to downplay the heat between us. But his voice broke on the last syllable, and when he shifted, grinding down just enough to make me gasp, something shattered. He buried his face in my neck, sobs racking his frame. "He knows, Nate. My director, Marcus. He saw the texts. Called me every name in the book. Said I'd never work in this town if I didn't. If I didn't play his game." Marcus Hale. The name hit like a gut punch. I'd heard the whispers in theater circles, a hotshot director in his 40s, all sharp suits and sharper tongue, known for discovering young talent. Elijah had gushed about landing the role in his latest production, a gritty drama about identity in the AIDS crisis era. "It's my big break," he'd said, eyes shining. I toasted him, ignoring the knot in my gut, the way he'd linger after mentions of late-night table reads. As the rain lashed the windows, Elijah spilled it all. How it started innocent, a drink after hours, Marcus offering advice on the role. How the compliments turned to touches, a hand on the knee under the table, then more in the dim light of his midtown loft. I thought it was part of it, you know, networking. Proving I belonged. His voice hollowed out, words tumbling like debris. But tonight, after the cast party, he cornered me. Said if I didn't give him what he wanted, he'd blackball me. And then he saw my phone light up with your name. My blood ran cold. The texts, stupid, flirty things I'd sent that afternoon. A photo of the skyline from my rooftop, captioned, "Missing your chaos." Elijah had laughed when he read it, but now. He went ballistic, Elijah continued, fingers digging into my arms. Called you my dirty little secret. Said I was wasting my talent on some broke-ass photographer who couldn't even commit. He pulled back, eyes red-rimmed, searching mine. Is he right, Nate? Are we just nothing? The question hung there, heavier than the storm. I wanted to rage, to storm out and confront this Marcus prick. But Elijah's weight on me anchored me. Instead, I cupped his face, thumbs brushing away tears. "You're everything," I whispered, the words tasting like truth for the first time. We kissed then, slow, desperate, a reclamation amid the wreckage. His hands roamed, unbuttoning my shirt, but it wasn't lust driving us. It was survival, stitching ourselves back together with touches and promises. Hours later, as the rain tapered to a drizzle, we lay tangled under a threadbare blanket, the city humming back to life below. Elijah traced lazy patterns on my chest, his breathing steady for the first time. "What now?" he murmured. I didn't have an answer, but as I held him, the scar on my collarbone aching like an old wound reopening, I knew one thing: whatever came next, we'd face it side by side. Or so I thought. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving, the kind of light that exposes every crack in the facade. Elijah woke with a start, bolting upright as if the night had been a dream. "Shit. Rehearsal," he muttered, scrambling for his jeans. I watched from the bed, sheets twisted around my waist, the whiskey haze lifting to reveal the mess we'd made. "Callin' sick," I said, reaching for him. He paused, half-dressed, and shot me a look, half gratitude, half fear. "I can't, Nate. If I bail now, after last night, it'll look like I'm running." He was right, of course. New York didn't forgive weakness, especially not in the cutthroat world of off-Broadway. I drove him to the theater in my beat-up Civic, the wipers slapping rhythmically against the drizzle. Midtown was a snarl of yellow cabs and suited commuters, the Empire State Building looming like a judgmental finger. As we pulled up to the stage door, Elijah leaned over the console, kissing me quick and hard. "Tonight," he promised. "Your place. No more hiding." I nodded, forcing a smile, but as he disappeared inside, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Stay away from Elijah. He's mine to break." My stomach twisted. Marcus. How the hell did he get my number? I deleted it, chalking it up to bluster, but the seed of doubt took root. The day dragged. I had a shoot in Chelsea, some tech startup bros posing with their laptops like they were conquering empires. My lens caught their smug grins, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying Elijah's bruises, the tremor in his voice. By evening, I was back in Brooklyn, pacing the apartment, the scent of last night's tie lingering like a ghost. 7 became 8, then 9. No texts, no calls. I fired off a message. "You okay?" Crickets. Panic set in around 10, when a mutual friend from the theater scene pinged me. "Dude, what went down?" Elijah stormed out of rehearsal, screaming at Marcus. Cops got called. My blood turned to ice. I grabbed my keys, tearing through the rain-slicked streets toward Midtown, horns blaring as I weaved like a madman. The theater's marquee glowed accusatorily, echoes of The Closet starring Elijah Voss. Barging through the stage door, I found chaos, cast members milling in the lobby, whispers rippling like smoke. A cop stood by the entrance, notepad in hand. "You here for Voss?" he asked, eyeing my drenched jacket. I nodded, throat tight. "His boyfriend." I lied without thinking, the words slipping out like a confession. They led me backstage, where Elijah sat on a prop crate, knees drawn up, an ice pack pressed to his jaw. Fresh blood trickled from a split lip, stark against his pale skin. "Nate," he breathed, launching into my arms. The cop cleared his throat. "Says the director got physical. Assault. We're taking statements." Marcus Hale burst in then, flanked by a slick lawyer type, face flushed with rage. "This is bullshit," he snarled. "Kid's unstable." I was just giving notes. His eyes locked on mine, cold as steel. "And you, stay the fuck out of it." Elijah tensed against me, but I held firm, staring the bastard down. "Touch him again, and you'll need more than a suit to save you." The words felt hollow, a photographer's bluff, but they hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown. That night, we holed up at my place again, Elijah's lip swelling purple under the bathroom light. He winced as I dabbed antiseptic. Our reflections fractured in the mirror, two broken boys playing at being men. "I told him everything," Elijah said quietly. "About us. About how I love you." The words landed soft, a grenade with no pin. Love. I'd skirted it for months, terrified of what it meant in a city that devoured hearts. "I love you too," I replied, the admission freeing something deep inside. We made love then, slow and reverent, reclaiming what Marcus had tried to steal. But as Elijah slept, curled against me, my phone lit up again. Another unknown text. "He'll come crawling back." They always do. I blocked it, but sleep evaded me, the storm's echo rumbling in my chest. Weeks blurred into a fragile routine, the kind New York forces on you when life's kicking your ass. Elijah took a leave from the play. Marcus's production imploded amid the scandal, whispers of lawsuits and NDAs swirling like subway steam. He crashed at my place full-time, turning my walk-up into our unintended nest. Mornings started with coffee brewed strong on my ancient percolator, him humming show tunes while I scrolled freelance gigs on my laptop. Afternoons were for walks along the promenade in Brooklyn Heights, hands brushing until we thought no one was looking, then linking fingers defiantly under the autumn sun. But the shadows lingered. Elijah jumped at loud noises, his laugh a beat too forced during our movie nights, old rom-coms like When Harry Met Sally that we'd mock but secretly envied. "Think we'll get that?" he'd ask, head on my shoulder, as Meg Ryan quipped about soulmates. I'd kiss his temple, murmuring, "Better. We're writing our own script," yet doubt gnawed at me. My shoots dried up. Clients ghosting after words spread about my dramatic personal life. Bills piled like autumn leaves, and Elijah's savings dwindled on Uber Eats and therapy sessions he swore he didn't need. One crisp October evening, as we wandered the High Line, string lights twinkling against the dusk, he stopped by the old rail tracks, now overgrown with wildflowers. "Nate, I need to tell you something." His voice was steady, but his eyes, those hazel pools that had hooked me from day one, flickered with guilt. My stomach dropped. "What?" He took a breath, the city noise fading to a hush. "Before Marcus, there was someone else. Last summer, during that drought of auditions. Producer named Alex. It was stupid. A one-night thing after a party in the Hamptons. He promised callbacks, but it was just power. I cut it off, but he kept texting. I blocked him months ago. The confession hit like a rogue wave, cold and disorienting. Alex goddamn Whitmore, big shot in indie film, the kind who lunches with Spielberg and lunches on egos. I'd seen his name in trades, funding queer projects while betting half the talent pool. Why now? I managed, voice raw. Elijah's face crumpled. Because I hate secrets. After Marcus, I can't lie to you anymore. It meant nothing, Nate. You're the one who stayed. We stood there, the Hudson glittering below like shattered glass. As I processed the betrayal, not the act, but the omission, the parallel life he'd lived while whispering my name in the dark. Part of me wanted to bolt, to hail a cab back to solitude. But his hand in mine, trembling, rooted me. Promise me, I said finally, pulling him close. No more ghosts. He nodded, tears streaking his cheeks. And we kissed amid the tourists, a public vow sealed in salt and steel. Forgiveness isn't linear. It's a jagged path through fog. That night, we fought, ugly, words like shrapnel. How many others? I accused, pacing the kitchen. Was I just the safe bet? He fired back. You're the one who wouldn't define us. I was scared. Nate. Scared you'd run like everyone else. By dawn, exhausted and entwined, we'd clawed our way to truce. Let's get out, he suggested over burnt toast. Just us. A road trip. Clear the air. The idea ignited something reckless in me. I'd always dreamed of Route 66, but we settled for upstate New York, leaf peeping in the Catskills, away from the city's judgmental glare. We piled into my Civic with a cooler of beers, a playlist of the National and Bon Iver, and hit the thruway as the sun crested. Elijah drove first, windows down, wind whipping his curls as he belted out off-key lyrics. I snapped photos from the passenger seat, him silhouetted against fiery maples, carefree in a way I hadn't seen since summer. Our first stop was a kitschy motel in Woodstock, the kind with neon signs buzzing vacancy and heart-shaped tubs. We checked in giggling like kids, the clerk winking as if she knew. That night, under the scratchy sheets, Elijah straddled me again, not in desperation, but playfulness. Just a massage, he teased, hands kneading my shoulders with exaggerated seriousness. I laughed, pulling him down, but as his fingers traced lower, revealing the curve of his spine in the lamplight, something deeper unfurled. I see you, I whispered, palms mapping his skin like uncharted territory. All of you. We spent days hiking trails slick with fallen leaves, sharing stories by campfires, his about a childhood treehouse where he'd first kissed a boy and sworn secrecy. Mine about the summer I came out to my mom over pot roast, her silent nod the only absolution I'd ever need. One evening, at a roadside diner with checkered floors and pie under glass, he slid a napkin across the table. Scribbled in marker, "Marry me? Not legally, but you know." My throat tightened. Elijah. It was too soon, too loaded, but his grin, boyish, hopeful, cracked me open. Someday, I promised, folding the napkin like a talisman. Back in the city, reality crashed in. Elijah scored an audition for a web series, Queer Leads, low budget but buzzworthy. I landed a gig shooting for a queer mag, portraits of activists in the village. Life felt like it was stitching back together, thread by fragile thread. But Marcus wasn't done. A week before Elijah's callback, an envelope arrived at my door, no stamp, just my name in block letters. Inside, glossy prints, stolen from my darkroom. Us kissing in the park, tangled on my couch. With a note, leverage. Back off, or these go viral. Rage boiled hot. I confronted Elijah that night, Photos splayed on the coffee table like evidence in a trial. His face drained of color. "How?" he whispered. We pieced it together, my building super, a homophobe I'd caught eyeing Elijah too long. Marcus must have paid him off. Slipped in during one of our out-of-town jaunts. "We go to the cops," I said. Elijah shook his head. "No proof it's him. And my career. If this leaks." He trailed off. The fear I'd thought we'd buried resurfacing like a tide. The betrayal cut deeper this time, not just invasion, but the reminder of how exposed we were. That night, sleep was fitful, dreams haunted by flashbulbs and jeering crowds. Morning brought resolve. We changed the locks, installed a cheap camera, but the damage lingered. Elijah grew distant, rehearsing lines in the bathroom mirror, avoiding my touch. "I'm fine," he'd insist, but his eyes were hollow. The spark dimmed. Thanksgiving loomed, a holiday I'd always dodged. Too many family dinners laced with passive-aggressive digs about my lifestyle. This year, Elijah pushed, "Let's do our own. Turkey, pie, the works." I relented, and we turned my apartment into a Norman Rockwell fever dream. Grocery run to Whole Foods. Him basting the bird while I mashed potatoes. Bing Crosby crooning on the vintage radio. Midway through carving, he paused, knife hovering. "Remember that first night? The alley kiss?" I nodded, smiling. "Best bad decision ever." We ate cross-legged on the floor, plates balanced on knees, trading forkfuls and stories. But as pie crumbs dusted the rug, my phone rang, unknown caller. I ignored it, but it buzzed again, insistent. Elijah's brow furrowed. "Answer it." Static crackled, then a voice oily, familiar. "Happy holidays, lovebirds. Enjoy the show." Click. Seconds later, my email pinged, the photos, forwarded from an anonymous account, time-stamped to a gossip site. Panic surged. Elijah grabbed my laptop, deleting furiously, but it was too late. The site's traffic would spread it like wildfire. "Fuck!" he yelled, hurling a cushion. I pulled him into my lap, rocking us both. "We'll fight this," I vowed. But as sirens wailed outside, the city's pulse mocking our fragility, I wondered if love was enough armor against the wolves at the door. The fallout was swift and brutal. By midnight, texts flooded in, friends offering support, strangers spewing vitriol. "Faggots in love. How cute." Elijah's agent dropped him via voicemail. "Too much heat right now." My editor called it dawn. "Nate, the spread's blowing up. Clients are pulling out." We barricaded ourselves inside, blinds drawn, surviving on delivery pizza and denial. On the third day, Elijah cracked. "I can't do this," he said, voice muffled against the pillow. "Hide forever? Be the poster boys for scandal." I sat beside him, the bed dipping under my weight. "Then we don't hide. We own it." He looked up, eyes swollen from crying. "How?" I took his hand, the one with the calluses from prop handling. "A statement. Our story, on our terms." He searched my face, then nodded slowly. "Together, that afternoon, we drafted it raw, unfiltered. We're Elijah and Nate. We're in love. And we're done letting assholes dictate our narrative." I posted it to my photo blog, Elijah cross-sharing to his sparse Instagram. The response was a deluge. Hate mail, sure. but also messages from kids in Ohio towns, thanking us for the courage. A producer DM'd Elijah, "Saw your post. Got a script for two guys like you." Hope flickered, tentative as a match in wind. But Marcus struck back. A cease and desist landed via courier, accusing us of defamation. His lawyer's letter dripped legalese, retract or face ruin. We lawyered up on credit, pro bono from a queer legal aid group in Chelsea, turning my living room into War Central, files stacked like Jenga. Through it all, Elijah and I clung tighter, massages turning ritual, him on my back, kneading out the stress, whispering, "We're unbreakable." Winter deepened, snow blanketing the burrows in hush. Christmas Eve, we splurged on a tree from the corner lot, Charlie Brown sparse, adorned with drugstore ornaments. As It's a Wonderful Life flickered on TV, Elijah pulled a box from his coat, a vintage Leica lens, scuffed but gleaming. "For your next chapter," he said. I kissed him, tears pricking, and handed him my gift, a leather-bound journal, first page inscribed, "To my co-author." Midnight mass bells tolled from a distant church, and we made love by tree light, bodies sinking like a well-rehearsed scene. Afterward, tangled in light's glow, he murmured, "What if we lose?" I traced his jaw. "Then we rebuild." But we won't. Optimism, fragile as tinsel, but ours. January roared in like a lion, all bluster and bite, sub-zero winds whipping down canyons, turning Manhattan into a wind tunnel of regret. Our lawsuit chugged forward, depositions in sterile conference rooms where Marcus's glare could freeze lava. He testified slick as oil. Elijah misinterpreted my mentorship. The boy has delusions. I wanted to lunge across the table, but our lawyer, fiery dyke named Rosa, pinned me with a look. "Let him dig his grave," she muttered. Elijah held up through it, landing a gig waitering at a queer bar in Hell's Kitchen. Tips good. Crowd supportive. Nights. He'd come home smelling of craft cocktails and cigarette smoke, collapsing into my arms with tales of drag queens schooling patrons on consent. "It's like family," he'd say, and for the first time, I believed him. My photography pivoted to queer portraits, unsanctioned shoots in back alleys where trans kids posed fierce against graffiti walls. One series, Unapologetic, went viral on Tumblr, galleries sniffing around. But complacency is a thief. February brought Valentine's, and I planned big. Reservation at a speakeasy in the Bowery, candlelit booth with oysters and jazz. Elijah was radiant in a thrift store blazer, curls tamed, eyes sparkling as he toasted. To us, survivors. Midway through dessert, chocolate lava cake oozing like secrets, we got the call. "Rosa, settlement offer. He wants out quiet. Pays your legal, plus hush money." We debated over the remnants of cake, forks clinking like Morse code. "Take it," Elijah urged. "Move on," but spite burned in me. "No. We fight, make him own it," he sighed, squeezing my hand. "Your call, Nate. But promise, no more letting him steal our peace." I nodded, but as we stumbled home, buzzed and bold, doubt whispered, was I fighting for justice, or just my ego? The trial date loomed in March, a Friday the 13th omen. Prep consumed us, endless mock cross exams, Elijah pacing lines like a method actor. One night, post-rehearsal, he straddled me on the couch again, hands on my shoulders. "Just a massage," he murmured, but his touch lingered, thumbs circling with intent. I arched into it, whispering, "Reveal more." He did, peeling away layers, not just clothes but fears, until we were bare, laughing through gasps. "I need you," he confessed, voice husky. "Always." Court day dawned muggy, cherry blossoms mocking the tension. The courtroom smelled of old wood and desperation. Fluorescent buzz overhead. Marcus took the stand, suit impeccable, spinning yarns of artistic guidance. Then Elijah, my Elijah, in a crisp button-down, voice steady as he recounted the assaults, the coercion, the texts that twisted love into leverage. "He made me feel small," he said, eyes locking on mine across the room. "But Nate showed me I'm not." The jury deliberated 2 days, New York spring unfolding oblivious outside. We waited in a diner nearby, nursing bottomless coffee, my knee bouncing under the formica. When Rosa burst in, grinning like the Cheshire Cat, Elijah crushed my hand. "Guilty. Assault. Harassment. 6 months. Plus restitution." Elation hit like heroin, pure, flooding. We hugged Rosa, tears mixing with diner grease, then spilled onto the street, kissing sloppy under a sky-bruised purple. That night, celebration, rooftop party with friends from the bar, cheap champagne fizzing as toasts rang out. "To Elijah Voss, the bravest leading man," someone yelled. He beamed, but pulled me aside later, away from the laughter. "It's over, right?" "Him." I nodded, but as fireworks popped over the East River, some wedding across the water, a shadow crossed his face. "What?" I pressed. He hesitated. "Alex. He emailed last week, congratulating me on the trial. Said he wants to make amends. Meet for coffee." My jaw clenched. "Tell him to fuck off." Elijah's eyes pleaded. "Maybe closure? One talk." Jealousy flared, irrational and hot. "After everything, he's just another wolf." We argued then, voices rising over the party's din, until he stormed off to the fire escape. I followed, finding him huddled, city lights haloing his silhouette. "I'm sorry," I said, sliding beside him. "Scared you'll slip away." He leaned into me, sigh ragged. "Never. But I need to face my past. For us." Reluctant truce. He met Alex a week later, at a neutral cafe in Tribeca, neutral as a minefield. I paced my studio, lens idle, imagining every scenario. Old flames reigniting, promises of roles laced with strings. Hours ticked to 4, then 5. When he texted done. Coming home. Relief washed me. But his face, when he walked in, was ashen. "He apologized," Elijah said, dropping his bag. "Said he was wrong, that Marcus's mess made him reflect. Offered a real audition, no bullshit." Skepticism coiled in my gut. "And you believe him?" Elijah shrugged, weary. "Doesn't matter." I said no. Told him I'm done trading pieces of myself. Pride swelled, but so did unease. That night, as we lay awake, his back to me, I whispered, "Proud of you." He turned, kissing my palm. "Love you, Nate." Spring bloomed defiant, tulips rioting in Madison Square Park, our walks turning to runs along the waterfront. Elijah booked a small role in a fringe festival one-act, a queer fairy tale about redemption. I shot the promo stills, capturing him as an enchanted prince, thorns and all. Critics called it tender, unflinching, and for once, the praise felt earned, not tainted. But betrayal brews in still waters. Late May, I came home early from a scout in the meatpacking, sunset hues begging for film. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. Elijah's phone buzzed on the counter. Screen lighting, missed you last night. Same time tomorrow, and my world tilted. Alex. I scrolled, heart hammering, text spanning weeks, flirty emojis, meetups disguised as networking. Rage blinded me. I confronted him that evening, phone thrust under his nose as he stirred pasta. What the fuck is this? Elijah froze, spoon clattering. Nate, wait, how long? I roared. Since the coffee? While I'm fighting for us. Tears welled in his eyes. It was one time. After the audition, he bought me a drink. I was buzzed. Lonely you were at that overnight shoot. It didn't mean. Everything means something. I yelled, storming out, door slamming like a guillotine. The streets blurred, neon signs mocking. Love hurts scrawled on a wall. I ended up at our old dive bar, downing shots until the bartender cut me off. Go home, kid, he said. Whatever it is, fix it. Midnight found me on the stoop, key heavy in hand. Elijah waited inside, eyes bloodshot, a duffel half-packed. Don't, I begged, dropping to my knees. Talk to me. He sank too, words spilling, the isolation post-trial, my growing gigs pulling me away, Alex's flattery filling the void. I fucked up, he sobbed. But I choose you. Always. We cried then, ugly and cathartic, until exhaustion claimed us on the floor. Dawn brought reckoning. Therapy, I said. Both of us. No more solo battles. He agreed, fingers laced with mine. Rebuild. Summer scorched in, humidity thick as guilt. We attended sessions at a center in Chelsea, group circles with other queer couples, sharing war stories over lukewarm tea. Elijah opened up about his patterns, chasing validation from men who dangled power, an echo of his brother's exile. I admitted mine, control freak tendencies, born from parents' divorce, fearing loss so much I'd sabotage first. Progress was glacial, but real. Date nights resumed, picnics in Prospect Park, him reading poetry from a battered Ginsberg while I sketched. One sweltering July 4th, we watched fireworks from my rooftop, bodies slick with sweat. Remember the massage? He teased, hands wandering. I grinned. Best reveal ever. We made love under stars, the booms syncing with our rhythm, a declaration of survival. Yet the past nipped at heels. August brought Alex's film premiere. Elijah's old flame turned director, the web series he'd passed on now Oscar-buzzed. Invites arrived, gold-embossed taunts. Go, I urged, surprising myself. Own your no, he did, arm in arm with me, turning heads in a borrowed tux. Alex cornered him at the after-party, champagne flute trembling. You dodged a bullet, Elijah said coolly. Found my truth instead. We left early, hailing a cab to Coney Island, riding the cyclone till nausea matched our glee. As leaves hinted at turning, Elijah landed his break. Lead in a Broadway revival of Angels in America, Prior Walter Reborn. Rehearsals swallowed him, but he carved time, midnight massages, his weight a comfort, revelations now of dreams, not deceit. "This is us," he'd say. Act 2. I watched his first preview from the wings, heart swelling as he embodied loss and grace. Post-curtain. In the alley green room, he crashed into me. "Couldn't without you. Lies? Betrayals? They'd forged us stronger. Scars like constellations." Autumn painted the city in fire. Central Park a blaze of crimson and gold. The air crisp with promise and decay. Elijah's run in Angels exploded. Reviews hailed him as a revelation, raw as the epidemic's rage. Sold-out houses. Tony whispers. Suddenly our walk-up overflowed with flowers from admirers. Scripts piling like propositions. He handled it with humility, still the kid from Ohio who blushed at compliments. But success's glare cast long shadows. I thrived too. My unapologetic series caught a MoMA curator's eye, leading to a solo show in Soho. Opening night, gallery walls lined with prints of queer resilience. Elijah by my side in a velvet jacket, toasting with strangers who gushed. "You captured souls." His pride beamed brighter than the spotlights. But as the crowd thinned, a familiar face slithered in. Marcus Hale, out on parole, gaunt in a cashmere coat, eyes like coals. He approached slow, glass of Pinot in hand. "Nate," he drawled, ignoring Elijah. "Heard you're the next Mapplethorpe." Venom laced the silk. Elijah stiffened beside me, but I stepped forward. "Leave," Marcus chuckled, low and mean. "Just congratulating." "And you?" He turned to Elijah. "Break a leg." "Wouldn't want history repeating." He sauntered out, but the chill lingered, a specter at the feast. That night, champagne soured in my veins. We cabbed home silent, the Holland Tunnel's lights strobing like accusations. "He's nothing," Elijah said finally, hand on my thigh. But doubt festered. Rehearsals intensified, late nights, him stumbling in at 2 a.m., makeup smeared, collapsing into bed without a word. I'd lie awake, tracing his silhouette, wondering if fame's siren song echoed old seductions. November brought Thanksgiving Redux, our second, but this time with guests. Rosa and her wife, a gaggle of theater friends, even my mom from Jersey, who'd warmed to Elijah over tentative calls. The table groaned under turkey and fixings, laughter bouncing off walls newly hung with my prints. Mom pulled me aside mid-meal, apron dusted with flour. "He's good for you, Nathaniel. Don't screw it up." Her words, gruff with love, hit home. I was the one with walls. Still. Post-feast, Elijah and I snuck to the fire escape, city sprawl twinkling below. "Grateful," he murmured, nuzzling my neck. "For this." We kissed slow, hands mapping familiar terrain. But his phone buzzed. "Director. Notes." He sighed, pulling away. "Duty calls." As he vanished inside, loneliness tugged, sharp as withdrawal. The holiday haze lifted to deadlines. My show toured to LA, a week of schmoozing in palm-shaded galleries. Elijah stayed, citing previews, but texts grew sparse. "Killed it tonight. Miss you." I called nightly, voice tinny over the line, him exhausted but effusive. "Hurry back," he'd say. Jet-lagged home. I expected fanfare instead. The apartment hummed empty. A note on the fridge, emergency script run. "Love, E." Hours stretched, worry gnawed. Midnight brought him, disheveled, eyes evasive. What happened? I asked, pulling him close. He melted, then tensed. Nothing. Just pressure. But his shirt reeked of scotch, not the herbal tea he favored. Paranoia bloomed. Another betrayal? I shoved it down, opting for touch. Massage. He nodded, straddling wearily. As his hands worked my knots, I probed gently. Talk to me. Tears came first, then truth. It's the role, he confessed. Prior's pain, it's cracking me open. Nightmares, doubts. Am I enough? Vulnerability poured. Not infidelity, but fracture. Relief mixed with ache. I held him as sobs shook us both. You're more than enough, I whispered. My everything. We doubled down on us, couples therapy resuming. Weekends unplugging in the Hudson Valley, where fog-shrouded farms whispered anonymity. One drizzly morning, hiking a leaf-strewn trail, he stopped by a creek, skipping stones with boyish focus. Marry me, he said again. Not a question this time. Ring box materializing from his pocket. A simple band, silver etched with revealed. My yes choked out. Yes to him. To forever. Engagement news leaked. Paparazzi snapping us at brunch. Headlines blaring Broadway stars' queer vows. Hate surged online. But so did support. Glad spotlights. Wedding registry crashers. Planning consumed December venue hunt in the Finger Lakes. A rustic barn with vineyard views. Suits tailored in Nolita. His emerald to match his eyes. Mom hosted a shower. Jersey relatives mingling awkwardly with Elijah's chosen family. Toasts bridging divides. Christmas Eve. Snow blanketing Brooklyn like forgiveness. We exchanged vows early, informal, on the rooftop under strung lights. In chaos and calm, I said, sliding the ring on. Till the curtain falls, he echoed. Making love afterward was sacrament. Bodies a litany of gratitude. His weight on me a revelation renewed. But January's chill carried omens. Rehearsals peaked. Elijah vanishing into the ether. Tech weeks. Dress runs. My own work faltered. A gallery deal soured over edgy content, leaving me adrift. One blizzard night, stranded in Manhattan after a shoot, I crashed at a hotel bar, nursing a Manhattan till numbness set in. A voice slurred beside me. Fancy seeing you solo, Marcus. Parole blitzed. Ty Askew, leering. Bet the boy's too busy for you now. Stars burn bright, then out. I stood to leave, but he grabbed my arm, breath foul. He came to me, you know, after your little tiff. Begged for a role. Lies, surely, but they wormed in, fueling the void Elijah's absence carved. Home next dawn. I waited, confrontation brewing. He arrived noon, snow-dusted, beaming. Nate, tech was magic. I showed him the texts I'd fabricated in my mind. No. Wait. The bar receipt. Marcus's card slipped into my pocket like poison. Ran into your fan club. Elijah's face fell. What did he say? That you're playing me. Again. Accusation exploded. Yells ricocheting. Him denying. Me accusing. Old wounds ripped wide. You're paranoid, he shouted. Success doesn't mean betrayal. Then why the distance? I hurled. Why the secrets? He packed a bag then, eyes blazing. Space. I need space to breathe. Door slammed. Silence roared. Days blurred to a week, him at a castmate's. Me drowning in whiskey and what-ifs. Friends mediated. Rosa texting talk. Idiots. Mom calling, don't let pride win. Finally, Valentine's irony bitter. I showed at the theater, bouquet wilting in my fist. Backstage. Post-matinee. He found me in the wings. Makeup half off. Vulnerable as opening night. I'm sorry, I started. He crossed arms. Me too. But Nate. I talked to a counselor. Solo. The role-stirring shit. Abandonment. From dad bailing when I came out. I pushed you away. Testing. Confession disarmed me. I tested too. Feared losing you to lights. We collapsed into green room chairs. Hands linking. Fight together? Always. Reconciliation was slow burn therapy trios. Date nights sans phones. Spring previews loomed. His opening night, I sat front row. Heart in throat as he ignited the stage. Fierce. Fractured. Fully alive. Standing ovation thundered. Backstage. He crashed into me. Sweat slicked. For you, he gasped. We celebrated quiet. Diner pie at dawn. Rings glinting under fluorescence. Summer hummed with wedding prep. Invites etched. Vows penned. But June brought a curve. Elijah's understudy flaked. He pushed through double duty. Exhaustion etching lines. One humid night. Post-run. He straddled me faintly. Massage, he mumbled, but collapsed mid-need. Fever hot. Hospital lights harsh. Mono. From stress and a virus sweeping the cast. I camped bedside. For beeps my lullaby. Holding his hand through delirium dreams. Don't leave, he murmured. Never, I vowed. Recovery was glacial, cancelled shows. Him bedbound. Me spooning soup and stories. In quiet, we planned anew. Smaller wedding, eloping vibes. Just us and the lake, he said. Weak but wicked grin. As leaves turned again, betrayal's ghost faded, not erased, but integrated. Scar tissue strengthening. Elijah returned to stage. Tempered. I booked a residency in the Berkshires. Portraits of lovers like us. November wedding dawned golden. Barn aglow. 50 souls witnessing. Vows exchanged under arches of wildflowers. In revelation and rain, I said. Through every act, he replied. Rings sealed. Kiss sealed. Cheers erupted. Dance floor spun. Mom twirling Elijah. Rosa leading toasts. As stars pricked the sky, we slipped to the vineyard. His head on my shoulder. Best plot twist, he whispered. I smiled. Ours. The honeymoon was a whim. 2 weeks in Provincetown. Cape Cod's queer haven. Where dunes whispered secrets and whales breached offshore like affirmations. We rented a cottage on the bay. Weathered shingles creaking under Atlantic gales. Mornings spent tangled in flannel sheets. Afternoons biking to clam shacks and galleries hawking driftwood art. Elijah, freed from stage glare, reverted to boyish, building sandcastles laced with innuendo, serenading me with sea shanties off-key. Captain Nate, he'd salute, pulling me into waves that numbed old aches. Nights by driftwood fires, we'd unspool futures, him directing someday, me chronicling queer lives in a monograph. Kids? He mused one eve, marshmallows toasting golden. I paused, the word foreign yet warming. Surrogate? Adoption? Whatever. With you. He kissed me sticky sweet. Deal. Back in Brooklyn. Reality reasserted gently. Elijah's angels closed to Tony nods. He lost to a vet, gracious in defeat, but landed a film, indie road trip, two lovers fleeing heartland hate. Shooting in the Southwest. Heat text sunsets from Red Rock canyons, thinking of our Route 66 dream. I tagged along weekends, lens capturing him against mesas, wind-tousled, alive. My Berkshire's residency bloomed into a book deal, exposed, queer portraits from the American fringe. Launches in Boston, signings where fans shared stories mirroring ours. One night, post-reading, a young man approached. Your pics. They made me come out. Elijah, beside me, squeezed my hand. That's the reveal, he murmured. Winter wrapped us cozy holiday markets in Union Square. Him haggling for ornaments, me sneaking candids. New Year's Eve, rooftop with friends. Countdown to midnight, 10. 9. His kiss at 0 tasted of champagne and certainty. Resolutions, simpler lives, deeper roots. Spring unearthed buried thorns. March mail brought a letter, Elijah's, forwarded from Ohio. His mother, postmark shaky, saw your play on tour. Proud. Can we talk? He stared, envelope trembling. Family rifts ran deep, her silence after his coming out, the funeral he'd skipped for his brother's overdose. What if it's a trap? I asked. He folded it carefully. Or healing. They met in a neutral diner, Columbus Midway. I waited in the car, heart pounding as hours ticked. He emerged drained but upright, sliding in with a half-smile. She cried. Said she was wrong. Brother's death. Broke her. Reconciliation tentative. Coffee promises. Not hugs but a door cracked. You're my family, he told her. But Nate's my home. Summer film wrapped. Premiere in Tribeca. Red carpet nerves. Him dazzling in linen. Me awkward in chinos. Reviews glowed. Voss brings aching authenticity. After party buzzed. Alex cornered us. Contrite in hindsight. You too. Goals. Elijah clapped his shoulder. Water under. Live better. Grace. Hard one. Fall brought harvest. Book release. Signings blending our worlds. Theater folk flipping through portraits. Photographers quoting monologues. One crisp eve. Walking the high bridge. He stopped. View spanning Harlem to heights. Remember that confession here, Alex? I nodded, arm around him. Ancient history, he grinned. Now, propose round 2 kids. We dove in agency meetings, profiles scrutinized. Waitlists loomed, but hope rooted. Thanksgiving, expanded table, Elijah's mom tentative guest. Mom's pie a bridge. Toasts clinked. To found families. Winter deepened. News came Christmas week. Match. Surrogate in California. Boy due summer. Elation. Terror. Dads. Elijah tested. Beaming. Nursery paint. Onesies monogrammed NNE's miracle. Scans showed tiny heartbeat. We cried in the ultrasound dimness. Spring swelled with it. Elijah's next gig. TV pilot. Family dramedy with queer dads. Audition nailed. Filming overlapped bump. I documented. His hand on Saget's belly via Zoom. Our first kicks vicarious but visceral. June heat peaked. Labor call at dawn. We flew west. Hospital sterile bright. Hours blurred, Elijah pacing. Me breathing with him through proxy. Cry pierced at 3 p.m. Theo Nathaniel Vosshale, red-faced, fists flailing. We held him first, tiny in our arms, Elijah's tears splashing his cheek. Ours, he whispered. Back east, Brooklyn transformed, crib in our room, midnight feedings to lullabies. Theo's eyes, hazel like his, smile quick as mine. Sleepless but sublime. Park strolls, him bundled in our arms, strangers cooing. Elijah directed a short Theo cameo, gurgling lines. Years folded like film. Theo's first steps in the living room, wobbling to us. Preschool plays where Elijah hammed his tree, me snapping eternal. Betrayals, faded photos, lessons etched. Marcus, jailed again, tabloid footnote. Alex, outed, cancelled, then quiet redemption. Decade mark, vow renewal, intimate lake barn, Theo ringbearer, mom's teary. Vows evolved, through reveals and ruins, I said. To every encore, he replied. Dance under stars, Theo asleep on blanket. Aging graced us, silver threading Elijah's curls, laugh lines framing my scars. Gallery retrospectives, his memoir spotlight and shadows. Theo, teen now, out as by, dating a artist kid. Like dads, he teases. One autumn dusk, Highline again, Theo off at college tour. Elijah straddles a bench, playful. Massage, I laugh, hands on his shoulders. Always, as sun dips, revealing skyline secrets, he turns. More than expected? Everything, I say. And in that moment, rain-scented air, city eternal, we're still the boys from the bar. Hooks unbreakable, story unfinished. Epilogue whispers. Love's not plot without conflict, but humanity lies in the mending. We mend, reveal, endure. American as apple pie and alley kisses, flawed, fierce, forever.